All right, the board and the bucket thing, we'll have to tell that story later. We usually leave a few stories for on stage at conventions. We always get the corporate staff a little bit worried when we start telling stories. Because usually it's a bash session back and forth, and we have a rating system when we tell stories on the fire department. Being a paramedic for years, we have a 1 to 10 rating system, and when we'd come to a new fire station, we'd always ask our family or whoever else was at the station, what number are you up to? And we knew exactly what they meant. So if you're up to 2s and 3s, and we had to be careful with what we told, we'd say, oh, this group's good, we're up to about 6s on this group. And so we'd sit down at the table and start telling stories, but we knew what level we could tell stories at. So one day we were on stage with about 2,000 people looking at us, and Colt threw out about a 4. And I'm thinking, man, this group's ready for about 2s, and we're already going to get in trouble. Corporate shaking their head at us. We have a lot of fun, you guys. We grew up on a ranch. Colt and I, grew up on separate ranches, but our family, a little south of Tucson, and just loved the outdoors, loved helping people, loved working with our hands. Did a lot of welding and construction and working on cars, and just enjoyed the hard work. And if I can say anything about this, I've used a lot of that here. That's one of the pieces that we've taken from that setting and brought into this atmosphere. The difference is there's a system here. It's not dollars per hours, and it's a different concept that we'll talk about tonight. My background is a paramedic, and we have to hear a little bit about that already, and I appreciate that. But paramedics, you guys, they don't get called for the good stuff, right? Very seldom do we get called to the birthday party and the balloons, and every now and then we get to go squirt kids with water or something like that with a fire truck. But in reality, when 911 is called and we show up, it's because something is out of their control. Something is bad, someone is sick, someone is hurt, and we get to deal a lot with people. We get to deal with the public, and it taught me a lot. It taught me, it opened my mind up to the world, to good and bad about people, and I learned a lot about that. But primarily, what I learned about the human body and about medications and about health is what drove me to be here tonight. Our job was to go walk in and help somebody, whatever it was. Sometimes it was the stubborn guy who's pale, diaphoretic, arms numb, and he's yelling at his wife because she called 911 and he passes out in front of you because he's having an MI, right? Why did you call? I'm fine. And then they pass out right in front of you. You have the tough guy who, if I'm not bleeding, I'm fine, right? And then you have the other group of people where they wake up in the middle of the night. We had a lady at 2:30 in the morning gave us a phone call because her eyes were dry. We show up, monitor, paddle, we come running in. Are you okay? What's the matter? She's like, I just want to know if you have some eye drops. So, I said, do you realize how many red lights we just went through to get here? I'm thinking, I hope the public doesn't know, because we just put a lot of other people in danger to deliver some eye drops. So, very, very diverse. We did a lot of good things in that sense. But what I did learn a lot about was medications and the importance of taking care of ourselves and what our bodies can do. And I learned that through a few situations. Primarily, there was one story. A lot of you might have heard this, but I went to a lady. She called 911. We got to her house, and the first question we always ask, why did you call? Where are you hurt? What's going on? We start getting my chest hurts. I can't breathe very well. We kind of get the story. What do you think the second question that we ask is? What medications, right? Any healthcare providers in here? All right, I can get some help. If I mess up, you guys can pull me aside later and fix what I said, right? But that's the idea, right? What medications? If I can get a look at the medications, we can get a good list, a good idea of what the doctor's already been trying to deal with and fix for the last 2 years. This lady specifically, I remember the call very well, because typically they give you a little bag or a list or a cupboard to look in. Well, this lady said, yeah, it's in the box over there. She had just moved in, so there's boxes all over her house. And I'm looking for this box. I'm moving boxes to look for a little box, right? And I'm moving this big box, and she says, yeah, that one. Okay, I put it down on the coffee table. I opened it up, and she had 32 prescription medications in that box. And every single time I tell that story, there's always this low moan that goes through her house. Like, there's something that just twists us and tweaks us a little bit when we hear that, right? It's not that medications, I think, are just bad. I think I've seen miracles happen, you guys. Little babies, you push the right drug, they have a heartbeat back. I've seen a guy, we had a 40-year-old guy that we did CPR on for 40 minutes, flatline on the monitor for 40 minutes, right? A young guy, there's got to be something. It's not normal to have a heart attack at that age. Let's keep trying the right medication, the right time. Something happened, got a pulse back. 2 weeks later, he comes by the fire station, holding hands with his wife, right, and saying thank you. What I liked is he had a big bucket of chocolate chunk cookies, double chocolate, and a gallon of milk, right? And he said, thank you, guys. I don't know how to thank you, but here, this might help. He said, that's a start. Come on in. You guys love what we did. There's those moments that are just priceless. You know, you can't put a value to that. You know, that may happen once a year kind of thing, but you're glad you're there, you're glad you participated. And I know that drugs have their place. I know that medications have their place as well. But when I started seeing these medications lists get longer and longer and longer, and some people get sicker and sicker and sicker, I just kind of wondered, not necessarily doctors and medications' fault, but is it maybe society, maybe it's us thinking that that's just the system. And we just live however we want. If I get sick, I'll just go to my doctor and just get a pill or a shot or something, he'll just fix it, right? What proved this point to me is I had a guy jump in the back of my medic truck one day, very sick. He had cancer. I think he knew it by then, but he just was sick that day. Called us up, not feeling good. He jumped in the back of my medic truck and said, hey, can you give me a shot and get me out of here? I got to go to work. Give me the quick fix. Give me a shot so I can get out of here. I got to go do something, right? I'm like, no, you have cancer. I mean, I don't have a shot for that. Right? And it's amazing to watch people realize, like, oh, this is kind of serious. You know, you start to see that happen. So I learned a lot about that aspect, dealing with the doctors, taking the patients in, following up with them, find out what they got, what medications were they given, what did they do, how are they doing now. You know, following some until they pass away. You know, you're involved with that whole process. Hundreds of people in our arms looked at me. You know, am I going to pass away? And you know, how do I answer that? Because you know, literally minutes later, I was the last person they talked to, and it burns images in your mind of what you want to help. You get passionate about finding a solution. The other half of what I had a chance to do was to help teach a peer-to-peer fitness program at the fire department. So we took nutrition classes, and we would actually pass that along to our fire stations. We would implement it, and then we would teach the next fire station what we were doing, and then they would implement it, and the process continued. We did that with a core strength program and a nutritional program. So the idea behind that was just kind of being taught. And it wasn't a formal thing necessarily at the time. I think it's getting a little more formal now. But through that process, we became very familiar about the proactive, preventative concept of health versus the reactive paramedic concept, right? Wait till the tones ring, jump down the fire pole, slide down, and hurry up and get out there and hope they don't need eye drops. Hope it's something more important than that. But the idea behind that is one side is very reactive and last minute, ditched effort way to fix something. We don't care about side effects. We'll give you whatever we can just to get your heart started back again. And at that point, that kind of makes sense. But what about the proactive preventative concept? And what are we doing? And what do we understand about that? And what are we doing to take measures to help be proactive and preventative in what we do and what we teach to those around us all over? Okay? So I had those two images, and I started kind of on a quest. I started looking. What was out there that we could do to better help ourselves with the proactive side? What was out there? I learned a lot about free radicals. Okay, I learned that free radicals were these incomplete molecules in our bodies that were damaging. They lead to what we call oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, you know, we heard about in paramedic class. We heard about it, but we didn't have a drug to fix it, so we just kind of said, well, it's there, it leads to all this bad stuff. Okay, next. It was a day class. But the idea behind it was, I had a doctor give me the best analogy I've heard of what oxidative stress is. And he said this, he said, if you put 10-year-old boys in a padded room, I like how I said padded room, like these 10 rowdy boys in a room, he said, throw 9 basketballs in the room and see what happens. I got 6 kids, I get a pretty good idea what's going to happen. And this doctor was telling me, he said, that's the best example I can give you of what a free radical is. It's missing something. It's a boy, and they're missing a ball. I said, I want your ball. So he'll size up the guy next to him, and he said, oxidative stress begins, right? I get my ball, you're missing one, what do you want to do? You take it from the next guy and the next person, and that starts a process of stripping, tearing apart, and causing damage to the cell that we can't, we can't fix. But at the point, we didn't have a solution. We didn't have a pill or something we could just give somebody to fix it. The idea behind antioxidants has been out for about 10 years. That idea is that maybe we can throw an extra basketball in the room and fix it, right? The problem is we can take antioxidants all day and only end up with a few basketballs to fix hundreds and hundreds of rooms. We just don't have the ability to ingest enough of those to fix that many situations. So the ratio just didn't work. Okay? All of this kind of research kind of led me down a path of antioxidants, led me to a few different products, and ultimately it led me to the ABC Primetime video, where I had a chance to sit back and everything kind of came clear. All the requests, all the information I had learned kind of came to one spot, and it made sense all at once as to why this information is important. What can we do to help prevent and have a proactive approach at our health? I think that's the best way I've come up with. I've taught a lot of meetings, and I've been trying to figure out a way to separate what we might think now to compare to what we should be thinking. And it's that preventative concept, the proactive approach versus the reactive approach. And so that was the way I look at this. ABC did a great piece on Protandim. Protandim is one of those products that changes the ratios. We're going to talk about that tonight. It changes our ability to fight the free radicals in our bodies. We have so many free radicals that just taking antioxidants, the ratios aren't quite high enough to learn about that. And then we'll talk about some concepts and maybe simplify it down. I'm kind of that way. I'll read the science and kind of understand the big picture, and I'll bring it back down to some analogies that I can take home with me and pass down to anyone that they can understand. And I hope that might help you tonight, because I'm very simple. This doesn't have to be hard. We've taken a very simple background, very simple education, very simple training, and turned it into a wonderful organization of people that are thanking us daily for health and incomes and things that are happening. And it all came down to just some hard work and some basic concepts. It doesn't have to be hard. So I hope we can simplify that a little bit today. Let's watch this video. Take notes if you can. We'll probably have some time for questions afterwards. But watch this video and see if there's things. Let me just get an idea. How many guests are here today? Raise your hand if you haven't been to a meeting yet. Okay, thank you guys for coming. This is primarily designed for you. Okay, we do trainings where we'll take the distributors and teach them how to do this, but tonight is what we're doing. What is Protandim? What is this about? And this was the beginning point for most people in this room, I think. This video was the starting point for that. So let's start here and we'll